Kelsey.
Tracy.
Friend, CEO of Nave Law, huge community advocate, dad, husband. The list goes on and on. Welcome to the Truthfully Tracy podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I am so grateful for you to be here today, and I'm really just excited to see where our conversation goes.
Yeah, for sure.
You have your own podcast that you're kind of getting off the ground over the last few months, right?
Yeah, it's with the firm. It's called the Rising Phoenix Podcast. It's because we all have things that we need to rise from the ashes and second opportunities, whether it's clients, whether it's coworkers, whether it's community leaders. We all deserve a second chance, and that's kind of what the podcast is all about.
I love that. And there's, in so many ways, Sean, I feel like we both have lived and breathed that. We are walking examples of that. And
yeah, for sure.
You have to get to a point in your own story where you're able to go back and look at that part of your life and see, as painful as some of those moments were, see what it gave you and how you became the person you are because of it.
Yeah. And then you don't even realize the person you've become until after the fact,
right.
Which is the great thing, right? Is that you don't realize the transformation that you've made until you've already made the transition, right? Mm-hmm. You've gone through the suck, you've gone through all of those things, and you realize, wow, I got through the hard part, not realizing what the benefit was to the end.
Absolutely. And then realizing some of those coping mechanisms or some of those personality traits that you learned as a child or learned as a teenager to just survive now are things that you can use for good as an adult.
Yeah. I love the way that you frame that, is that, because we're all creatures of habit, right? And if we could take those habits that created those negative situations, right? Because there's benefits to them, mm-hmm. right? And use them in our adult life in a way that is healthier.
Yeah.
Right? It can be really impactful and honestly make that change a little bit easier rather than, reinventing the entire wheel.
Right.
Which is really hard. And if not impossible, because reinventing the entire wheel is a lot of setbacks. It's a lot of work. And I think that, not having to reframe everything and take advantage of that opportunity, for me, my why is to take negative situations and turn them into opportunities. And it leads right into that, right? Everything that I've done in my life, I, without knowing it, took advantage of the opportunity. Now that I'm fully aware of it, right? Because I went through a moment of trying to figure out what my why is, what my purpose is, and went through some really dark times of doing that. And through all of that, they all had the same exact pattern. And that was taking the negative situations that came into my life and turning them into opportunities.
Gosh. Were you unconsciously doing that until you consciously realized that, basically?
For sure. And I wasn't conscious of that probably until the last couple of years.
Really?
I mean, as a little kid, I would walk to the SPCA and I would spend time with the cats. And I'm not a huge cat person at all. But I would spend time with the cats because I felt that they needed a home, right? And I was giving them my attention when nobody else was giving them attention, to give them a safe space, right? And I was doing it at a young age of all of the things, whether it was school, whether it was football or whatever. I literally was taking the negative and figuring out how I could take the opportunity, because I realized at a very early age that there's a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of negativity in around. If I can embrace that, I can create a situation where I could turn that into my advantage.
Yeah. And I see, when you were just talking about the cats, it's like as children, we tend to project or give others what we actually are needing ourselves.
Yes.
So in a way, you were looking for that love and that safe space that you were giving to those cats.
100%.
And it was feeding you enough at that time. But, wow. So Take us back even further than the cats, Sean.
Okay.
Like what are some of your earliest memories?
Yeah, that is a very difficult question to answer, right? Because of all of the trauma. And I don't look at my life as, oh, woe's me, right? No. I am grateful for the things that I've went through because it's shaped where I am now. And I love where I'm at now. But when I talk about my history, it's very much a period where it's like, I was ages 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a range for me because I don't know. I can't pinpoint. And I'll give you a perfect example. So I was in my college course. It was Psychology 101. I don't remember the details, but I was in there with my girlfriend at the time. And we're talking about repression and all of these things. And I literally blacked out and started talking about things in my history that I had not remembered because I pressed it so far down, right? So when people ask, what's your latest memory? Or when I hear people say, oh, or I see it on TV, I'm like, oh, I remember when I was 4. And I'm like, do you really? Like, I don't remember anything. The thing is, the things that I do remember are the trauma things.
Yeah.
I remember being sexually abused. I remember my mother being physically abusive, going out into the woods and making me get a stick that she could hit me with, which is a real mental thing if you think about it, because if it wasn't big enough, she was going to pick her own stick, right? And if it was too big, I knew that was going to hurt, right? I remember being dropped off in the country and finding my way home. But I don't remember many core positive memories, right? Like it's funny because me and my brother, my half brother, we go back and forth with stories all the time, right? And there was a time where my mother had got me a new TV, a new bike, and some new toys around Christmas time. And what I didn't realize at the time is that all of my toys and things had my name engraved in it. Right? And at the time, you just think that it's custom. It's got my name in it, right? Now I realize that it's a screwdriver that had my name in it. But what happened is my mother was stealing from area storage places. Mm-hmm. You know how you can go rent storage units and all of that. She was robbing them, and that was the fruit of her labor. And, to protect it, she would put a name in it, right? So now, fast forward 10 years later, I have my best friend at the time, and I'm doing some work for him, for his family, and says one of the places was a storage facility. And I said to him, John, why do you have so much storage? Like so much security, mm-hmm. right? Because we got to get into the place. Then when you get into the place, you got the lock. There was so much security. And he says to me, he goes, well, about 10 years we were robbed. And I put the pieces together.
Wow.
My mother had robbed the family of somebody that I had become best friends with.
Wow.
Right? So then I was like, where's the opportunity in this? Right? Because I'm not a very religious man, mm-hmm. but I believe in everything happens for a reason, right? So it's just a full circle story where my mother ends up being incarcerated for stealing and robbing what eventually became my best friend, right? My mother was cellmates with Amy Fisher. I don't know if you remember who Amy Fisher was.
Yes.
She was cellmates with Amy Fisher, which I still think is the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
And I remember that whenever I would go visit my mother in jail, my not my parole officer, the person that watched me in foster care, mm-hmm. the social worker. That's what it was. When my social worker would take me to visit, what I would do is I would challenge her if I got good grades, that she would give me money. And I would challenge her to that, right? So that was the way of me turning a negative into a positive, right? Because it kept me focused on school. It kept me focused on being behave. And all of the things that I needed at that point to keep me focused was I allowed myself to have that space to do that. And I did really well in school. Yeah.
Wow. How old were you? Like this time frame when your mother was incarcerated?
Yeah, I was 9, 10, 11.
Oh.
in that range, and leading up to high school.
Okay. And so that's when you experienced the foster care system for the first time.
Yeah, that's when I went into the foster care system, which I think is pretty broken.
Yeah.
It was pretty broken, because the foster care system, I remember being with, and I was in foster care until I was 21 years old. Even after my mother was released from prison, I still stayed in foster care because I felt like that was the safest space for me to be. And again, I wanted to take advantage of being in the foster care system because then I can have my college paid for, all of that those kind of things, right? But eventually, I graduated from Moravia.
Okay.
My foster mother was fantastic. But I was going through a rebellion phase. I don't really understand why, but I ran away from home, which I went to the town of Moravia, where it has one headlight, so it's not really a town. And I just wanted to get away, right? And I remember the police being called and me being at the police station. And at that point, my foster mom came and picked me up and said, we'll take him home. And then she says, when I got back, from what I remember, she goes, well, he can come back, but he needs to find another place to live. So even though it was a fantastic experience, I felt very given up on.
Yeah.
Right? Especially being 18 years old in the foster care system. So I had a conversation with my social worker that said that if there's another opportunity, I would like to take advantage of another opportunity of being into another foster home while I enter college. So they ended up finding me another foster home that was in Auburn. Okay. And it was a good situation. They had a bunch of brothers that were my age and really allowed me to figure out more than living in Moravia, right? Whether that was out partying or doing those things that allowed me to explore things a little bit different. But unfortunately, about a year and a half living into there, the family was all arrested for sexually abusing one of the individuals that were at the home. So now I'm in a situation. Now I'm like 19, and I'm like, what do I do? Right? Like I'm not ready to go on my own, but I can do it if I need to. And they found me at another foster home in Auburn. And the family was great because they used to have a barber shop right connected to their house, which they turned into a bedroom, which they allowed me to have my bedroom there. So I had my own space to come into and everything. It was actually a really great, ideal situation. And then when I turned 21, I went out on my own and haven't looked back.
Wow. I didn't know any of that about you, Sean. As close as you are as a friend, I did not know any of that. You look back at those years, who are the people, was there anyone that stuck out, that was a safe person, that was a mentor during those years?
Yeah, I would love to say yes. But frankly, I don't know if I was in the space to take on a mentor. I was in survival mode.
Yeah.
I've got to figure out all of the things. So I don't know if I would have even been open to having a mentor, having those things. I do know that, some very good friends of mine became family, and that eventually, again, family became a crux of everything that I wanted, right? Because as a kid growing up, I instilled very early on that I am not going to let this define me in a way that is negative. I'm going to create the opportunities. I'm going to learn from the mistakes, because everybody says that people are creatures of habit. You grow up this way, that's how you're going to end up. And I didn't want that, right? Like, you grow up in abusive relationships. You're going to then create abusive relationships. You're going to keep that pattern. Very early on, I said to myself, this is not the life that I want. So therefore, I'm not going to continue this pattern.
Wow. Because as I'm dissecting, like, and looking at what happened early childhood for you, from sexual abuse to losing your mom to experiencing the chaos of not really ever having a safe space to jumping home, from staying in a state of fight or flight for decades, John, decades. How does a child cope with that? And usually we see a lot of acting out, addiction, maladaptive coping strategies, right? Because that's the quick fix to stop the chaos that's going on inside of them. And so instead, you at a very young age said, I'm not repeating this. So regardless of what I have to do, I'm choosing the other option.
Yep. Yeah. It was something that I was very conscious of because I was like, I remember those very lonely moments. Even the lonely moments, I was actually just having this conversation with somebody else, lonely moments like during the holidays. I, before having children, hated the holidays. And it's really, really still really tough for me. But now that I have two amazing kids, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But I'll back up a little bit. So when I turned 24, 25, I felt I was in a good space to find my mother because she had been released from prison, and I knew the vicinity that she lived in. Because, once she was released in that transition from the foster home where I got kind of kicked out of, I stayed with my mother because she had been released and she lived in the area. But I realized at that time that she had not changed because my younger brother was still with her. And he was telling me how she was abusive and all of those things. And it was really difficult because, his name's Travis. And unfortunately, Travis is incarcerated now. He'll probably be there for the rest of his life as a result of that. And I feel very sad and grateful at the same time because I very easily could have taken that path. I tried to mentor Travis to going into the military to get some discipline. He did not make that decision. He decided to go onto the streets. And when you go into the streets, bad decisions unfortunately happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually then, fast forwarding to me having this desire to find my mother, I ended up finding her in South Carolina. I went down to visit her. And it was good to kind of catch up and see and visit with her and her then husband. A week after that visit, I got a call that she was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
So I went back down, and unfortunately, she had passed away on Thanksgiving. So now, again, adding to reasons why I don't like the holidays, it's this constant reminder, right? So one of my friends at the time gave me the book, Who Moved My Cheese? And I read the book, and if anybody's not read it, I highly recommend it. I've read it like 100 times. It's a super duper easy read. But it's all about, these two mice and going to the same place looking for the same cheese. And eventually you got to get to a point where you have to go find new cheese. And it was life-changing for me because it gave me perspective that where I could have been angry of what was the point of finding her to only have her pass away. But what it did is it gave us both closure. And that was able to help me move on to the next phase of my life.
Yeah.
And that was a very helpful moment for me at that point.
Yeah. And I can imagine that as a child, I feel like we look at our parents like they can do no wrong, right? Like they're supposed to be, well, they're supposed to be this model of, I don't know, what we're supposed to be, like we see them in a different way. And then you get older, and I've got to imagine that when you sat down with her at the end, that you had to have seen all of her humanness, like all of her like pain, to me, someone that elicits pain on their children has a tremendous amount of pain and suffering going on inside of them.
For sure. And was something that I was very aware of when I was meeting with her, right? And for some reason, I don't know if it's naturally emotionally intelligent, I knew it wasn't her being evil.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't her being evil because I know that she'd been involved in prostitution. I know that she'd been involved in drugs because like things that you see as a kid, right? Like I'm sitting there in the house playing Nintendo and all of these men are coming into the house. You're not thinking anything of substance. You know, this doesn't seem to be right. Then you're smelling smells, or marijuana smells, which now when you get older, you put all the pieces together, right? But I knew it was from something else, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think was the strong reason why I said, I'm not continuing this pattern, right? Because I knew that my mother's trauma that was put on by her mother, right, who was also very traumatic to me, who was also sexually abusive to my brother. She was the type of person that would buy me these crappy sneakers, leave the price tag on them, and tell me, look how much I paid for you on these sneakers. Oof. And I didn't even like the sneakers, but that gets into the mentality of,
yes,
of the mindset. And the truth is that it's these things that really impact your life. Like I look back now, I don't like receiving gifts. And I look back and those are a lot of the reasons why that trauma affects me today.
Oh, I'm sure. Because it triggers that exact feeling in you,
yep.
right? And I don't think those feelings ever go away. I think we have to rewrite them in a way, which is what you're doing currently with your kids, right? Like you may hate holidays, but if you experience enough Christmases, it lessens that a little bit, that dampens that pain just a little bit. And what you've completely done is stopped a generational trauma, multiple generational traumas, from sexual abuse to physical abuse to all, like, you name it. You're stopping all of those things for your kids, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the core, because you asked me what my memory and the parents supposed to be a safe space. I never felt like it was in a safe space. My father abandoned me. Like I remember my dad lived in Utica, my mom lived in Auburn, outside of Auburn. But I would get on the bus to take the bus to Syracuse, then transition to Syracuse, then from Syracuse to Utica, my dad would pick me up, right? And again, I'm 9, 10 on a bus. Like that's not normal behavior, right? I remember sitting behind the bus driver and those having conversations for the transfer. And one day my dad just never picked me up.
Oh, God.
So my mom had to come pick me up. And I don't know if I ever really truly forgave him. I had a conversation with him about it, and it was more me coming to peace with it. Right? Because my father unfortunately passed away unexpectedly as well. He had a heart attack. And it was a moment of, what do I do? Right? Do I go down there, support him? And he had recovered. So we made the decision to not go down. Mm-hmm. And he was on dialysis and doing all those things. So we were talking on a daily basis. And we would have those questions. I would have those questions for him. And he would say things like, I wasn't in the best place to take care of you. And he was sorry. He came up, he was part of my wedding, which was fantastic. My mother had already passed away by then. He came up to my wedding and I had forgiven him, because for somebody to go through, I can only imagine the trauma that he had experienced from there. Because I remember growing up with him, and again, this is just triggering through conversations and talking about it, which is why I don't mind talking about it, because it brings up memories, right?
Yeah, I love that part.
But I remember as a kid, my dad would always drive a motorcycle 24/7. We grew up in Utica. It would be freezing cold out and we would be on a motorcycle. And I remember my dad not having any money and him siphoning gas for the motorcycle out of another car. And many times he would do that. He would be very slow at it and he would drink some gasoline, right? So, which is probably not abnormal when you're siphoning gas for vehicles. But it's so funny because the trauma that we deal with, I remember when I got together with my now wife, and she would always have the car on E. And just thinking about it right now in this moment, that probably was something that was a trigger for me when my dad ran out of gas. He didn't have money for it. So I was like, always have gas. You get half a tank, go fill it up. So it's so funny because those are the traumas. Those are the little things. And then it's like, my wife's like, oh, it's got to be Sean's way. Or work has got to be Sean's way. And a lot of it is because of those moments of trauma.
Absolutely. And that's everybody walking around, if you think about that, right? But that takes a level of self-awareness to be like, I'm feeling this trigger right now.
Yeah.
So like this situation is occurring, I'm feeling it. What's this triggering inside of me? Like you have to slow the whole process down. But a lot of people like just react, right?
For sure.
Because they don't realize that it was about like this memory of your father never having gas in motorcycle.
Yeah, and you're not making the connection.
No,
right?
gosh, no.
Because at the time, I would reason that to my wife and say, "Hey, hon, the reason why I don't like it when you run on empty is because it brings up this core memory." Had I done, she would be more. She would understand it more and then be like, "Oh, I got it. Don't worry about it."
Right.
And her just dismissing something that doesn't seem reasonable.
No,
right?
Absolutely. But do you believe, like as you're talking about your dad, do you believe that most people are doing the best that they can possibly do with their level of awareness they kind of have?
I do. I maybe I'm a sucker for believing this. I believe in the good in everybody. I believe that everybody wants to give back. I believe that everybody is good humans. And I just don't know if they know the path to do that.
I agree.
And I think that, I was just meeting with an intern who I think is amazing, but she's dealt with a lot of trauma on her own. And after her internship ended, I was like, I feel a connection. I still want to meet with you on a monthly basis. And I asked her, what does she want to get out of these monthly meetings? And she's like, I haven't felt like there is someone to be in a safe space with in the area. And you feel like a safe space for me, right? And that's what I want to do and help people create those safe spaces. Because when somebody feels safe, they put their guard down, they can deal with trauma, and then all of those triggers can potentially go away and they can create new habits.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And it's from living that, right? It's from living that. And I honestly, within the last 2 years of my life, finally have gotten my body into a safe enough space to remember the trauma and the sexual abuse that happened to me. Like you remember those very vividly. I shut those like completely down.
Mm-hmm.
My body remembered it. Like my body, I have known for years that something has happened to me. I just never had the memory. And it wasn't until I literally created enough safety that my mind did that all on its own.
Yeah, the mind is so, so powerful. Even if you look at people that are not mentally secure, right? They believe the things that they believe because their mind.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Just listening to a podcast on my way here, and that's what they were saying, that we actually keep our mind keeps us like addicted to pain and keeps us addicted to this cycle of staying in pain.
Yeah.
Especially when that's what you grew up in. That's what you consider, in
normal.
a way, normal. So when you start to create peace, and actually, I want to ask you a question about that. Like, how did you go from a state of fight or flight for most of your life and then start to create like a safety with that feeling of peace?
Yeah, it's something that I realized that I have a high capacity for work. I can work, and I think that came from being a non-attorney working in a law firm.
Yeah.
Right? I have to prove to these attorneys I belong, right? And I don't regret that because it's created the life that I have now, right? But I think at some point it became, this is not sustainable, right? And then when I realized that it wasn't sustainable, I said to myself, I have to give back into the community because that is where my safe space is, right? My legacy isn't helping people that make a mistake and get DWI or need a divorce lawyer or need all of that. Like, my legacy is deeper than that. It's helping people. Right? It's helping people, giving them a second chance and saying, hey, you took a negative situation. Let's take it into an opportunity. Let's talk to people about the dangers of drinking and driving. Let's talk about the importance of getting a prenuptial agreement. Let's talk about that and creating a voice for those opportunities, right? But for me, it was all about starting to give back to the community because that created a safe space for me, right? Because I'm the type of person that I would rather give than receive. I've always been that way. I'm a firm believer that you can have everything in your life that you want. You have to be able to give without any desire to receive anything in return, which is very hard.
Very hard.
I even struggle with that now at times where I'm like, I'll give, and I get nothing in return. And sometimes I get upset about that. And then I have to take a step back and be like, that's not the reason why you gave. Right? Because again, going to the trauma, and it was so funny. I just had this conversation with Danielle at my father-in-law's. My father-in-law recently passed away.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, Sean.
At his celebration of life, I said, those are my people. Because I heard the word, I love you, numerous times. And words of affirmation is my love language, right? And so you genuinely, when you're hugging people and you say, I love you, that is where I belong. And right, I've built this network of employees and friends and all these people that I hear I love you on an everyday basis, which tells me that now I've created a safe space for myself.
Yeah, you have surrounded yourself with safe people.
Yep.
Which is the exact opposite of what you experienced for most of your life.
For sure. For sure. The only thing I had safe back then was the cats.
Wow.
The cats at the SPCA, right? Because when I went through this moment of figuring out what my why is, I went through the difficultness of give me the 5 most awful moments that I remember, right? And then give me the most 5 amazing things that I remember. And what was the commonality to that, right? And it was that I took negative situations and turned them into opportunities in both of those situations.
Wow. And you continue to do that. I mean, I watch you every day do that.
That's creepy.
It is a little bit. That's right. I'm honest. So how did you explain how, because I think most people think you're a lawyer. I think most people assume that you're a lawyer.
Yep. I've actually probably stopped correcting people at this point.
Who cares? At this point, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How did you step into this role? How did this, because I can see it's so clear why you're in this role and you're meant to be in this role. But like, how did that happen? Yeah,
it happened through working really hard. It first started that I was doing the mortgages for the partners, and I was in the mortgage business during the mortgage crisis.
Okay.
And they said, we like how you're doing business. We don't know if there's a fit for you. I said, okay. So I met with them and I talked to them. I talked about the opportunities. And I said, I think that the opportunity that you have is in offering payment plans to clients and extended out the terms, right? Because most people that were charged with a crime were charging around $5,000, right? So, which is their average income was $50,000, right? So that's 10% of their income that they likely don't have up front. Right. So let's extend them some payment terms. Let's give them an opportunity for a defense, right? Rather than going to a public defender and they're pleading guilty and then in 10 years they make a mistake and that mistake that they had prior is really damaging to them, whether it's a felony or incarceration or whatever that may need to be. So again, just having this conversation, how is I created that to turn a negative situation into an opportunity, right? Because even if someone's charged with a crime, I do believe that there's a learning lesson in there, right? Because I myself was charged with the DWI in my early 20s. And I remember the cop saying to me, Sean, the first time is a mistake, the second time is not. And the amount of times I've repeated that to potential clients has been numerous, right? Again, I want to turn that negative situation into an opportunity. And I tell clients, I said, if you look at the impact that you have, there's so much guilt that you're going through right now, right? That if you can become an advocate to help people to not drink and drive and learning from your experience, not only will you save them that money and the heartache and the embarrassment that you're feeling, you could potentially save a life.
Yeah.
And again, that course of turning that negative situation opportunity is always at my mindset from that.
Yeah. Well, I'm listening to you so bravely speak about all of these things that have occurred in your life, right? And for many, there's a level of shame or guilt or lots of feelings that come with all of these things, which really makes most people shut this part of them down, hide these parts of themselves, not speak to these parts of themselves. How did you get here, Sean?
Yeah, it was really, really hard because, like I said earlier, I felt embarrassed for all of those things, right?
Yeah.
People are going to look less at me because I'm in foster care. People are going to look less at me because I'm having a hot dog on Christmas at a 24/7 gas station, right? All of those things, right? But I came to a point in my life a couple years ago where I had this constant feeling that I didn't belong. I didn't belong. I don't belong. I'm getting lucky. I'm winging it. All of the things, right? And then I realized through a conversation that somebody stopped me and they said, repeat what you just said. And I said, I can't. I just said a lot of different words. So they guided me back to the things that I said. And what I had realized is that my life experience has helped me create family, has helped me create connection, which is all of the things that I wanted in my life, but it was all created from my life experience. It was all created from my experience in foster care. It was all created from sexual harassment, sexual abuse. All of those things created me to build the things that I had built, whether it's safety through work, whether it's family through culture, whether it's my own family. It was all built because of the experience that I had. So at that point, I realized, one, I belong, right? Two, that the reason why I belong is because of my experiences. And three, that the opportunity that I have in front of me, because there's a lot of people in foster care. There's a lot of males that have been sexually abused that do not talk about it. There's people that are workaholics that hide their shame into work. I'm not hiding anything into my work. I'm trying to build a legacy for the people that I work with so that they can then have the opportunities to do the things, right? There's all of those things. And I built it all because of my past. So at that point, I realized I got nothing to run from, but embrace it.
100%. And when you embrace it, and when you share your story, and when you give it words, and when you speak to the shame, it literally lightens the load for everybody that is listening, Sean.
100%.
I remember I heard you speak at the Vera House White Ribbon last year, and I listened to you talk about the sexual abuse, like with so much power and like ownership in this way of like something that had happened to you. You had taken a negative, right? And turned it into a positive. Everything that you keep speaking to today.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, the amount of men and women that have had something happen to them in their past and are so embarrassed and are so shameful of something that they were not in control of, and that are still living. And if we know anything, it's when we hide those parts of ourselves, it grows and it grows and it grows. And the second you shine light on it, the second you speak to it, you take the power away from it.
100%.
And so you have done that so proudly. And by doing that, it models it for everybody else out there.
Yeah, it's very rewarding too, right?
Yeah.
I remember after speaking at the Vera House, I got a message from somebody who was not at the event and reached out to me, a very well-known community person, that if I said, everybody would know who it is,
Okay.
right? Reached out to me about their sexual and physical trauma as a way of being an outlet for that person. And it reaffirmed the power of being vulnerable. It's the power of letting my story help other people, because this individual, you would never expect it from, because again, what's there to expect from something?
Absolutely.
Right? From there. And my story helped them create a bigger voice for their story, which is hugely impactful. And there's nothing more powerful than that to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it shines when you hear more and more people's stories. It helps you process and make sense of what's going on with you, right? Like it might be a tidbit from this or a comment from this, and you're like, oh, like that registers. Like that helps me make a little bit sense of why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, or why that situation is hitting me like it did. And that's why I truly believe in what you're doing, what I'm trying to do. Like the more we share, we impact just a little.
Yeah. And you never know. Like I said, this individual wasn't even there.
Right.
And so somebody else had to share that story with her, right? Well, think about that impact. Somebody else, that impact was so great for them that they felt that they had to share with this individual, and then this individual reached out to me on the side.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How much of a blessing is that?
We live in a small city, right?
Yeah.
And like we have the ability to impact and grow and heal, like in so many ways. I truly believe that.
Same.
So you are doing that, Sean. So how do you think, so you're carrying this into the Nave, you're into your work, but you're also doing this in the community. I mean, you are supporting so many community organizations. You have supported me and Safe Space since the idea was put in your head, like when I came to you. So how does feeding back into the community, do that for you as well? Like,
it's, for me, it's helping keep these very important things alive, right? And it's therapy for me, right? Like I did therapy when I was younger.
okay.
And that's, frankly, where one of my sexual abuse things came from, right? So therapy was not a safe space for me.
Wow.
Right? But when I met my wife, I was like, oh no, I'm going to ruin this because it's this powerful thing and I just want to love it, right? So one of my friends said, hey, I have a counselor, you should go to her. So I said, okay. I went to her one time, and I remember the counselor said, just take it slow, embrace it, take it slow. And I said, okay. Danielle moved in 2 weeks later, and we got married a month later. So I didn't take any of the advice from that perspective. But so for me, therapy is talking to people. Therapy is helping people heal. Because if I'm helping somebody heal, it's also helping me heal
healing
too.
You.
So community is so important because, from a business perspective, if we're not supporting the community, how am I going to ask the community to support me back?
Yeah.
That's not really fair.
Yeah.
Right. So, it was funny because years ago, when I really started to divulge into what the issues are in the legal community and how I can fix it, again, taking the negative turn in the opportunity, it was involved around the client experience. Right? Because everybody hears you working for a law firm. I don't want to call my attorney because I don't want to get billed, talk down to people, all of that. So I said, we're going to focus on the client experience. It's something that we can control, and it's the number one issue in law firms, right? Is communication, all of that things, right? And after about 4 years of pushing that, I realized that it was the wrong thing. I realized when my staff was feeling very overwhelmed about calling a client that had complained, it was broken. So at that point, we transitioned all of our core values and our mission to focus around the people, our community, our clients, in that very specific order. Because the truth is, if we're taking care of our people and they're taking care of our community, the default is we take care of our clients.
Right.
right? So
Right.
everything is based around our people, our community, and then our clients. So that for me was the therapy in helping everything divulge and how I could take the firm to that next level of where we're at today.
Yeah. Your leadership method, you model such beauty, Sean. You live it and you breathe it.
Yeah. And, I love what I do.
Yeah.
It was so like people were talking about winning the mega billion the other day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably wouldn't change much of what I'm doing. I would make sure my mother-in-law was okay. I would make sure that the family was okay. I would make sure that they were all set financially. But my day-to-day, outside of taking a month off and traveling and doing all of that and experiencing the things, I wouldn't change much of what I'm doing.
I think that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
You're finding happiness in the micro moments.
Yeah.
The people that you surround yourself with, the way that you give back. And sometimes I think we chase the bigger things thinking it's going to fulfill that part of us.
Yeah.
And it's so empty compared to what like true connection and helping others actually feels like.
100%. And it's the people, you can win $1 million, but if that space is empty, it goes away.
Yeah.
It goes away because you're going to fill it up with things, right? You're going to fill it up with vacations and houses and cars and doing all the things. But if you don't have that connection, that human connection, what do you really have?
Right.
You have things.
You have things. Absolutely. So for listeners, anyone out there that does have situations in their past that they feel like that are holding them back, that is at a point where it does seem really negative, right? Life seems really negative. Life seems really hard. Like, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, it's all hard.
It is. God, it is. Yes.
It's all hard. So I don't want to minimize it, right? But you have to pick the hard, right? Like I'm going through the phase right now of nutrition and health, right? And it's easy to grab a cheeseburger. It's easy to, grab fast food. It's easy to, eat preservatives, food. That's easy, right? Yeah. The hard part of that is back pain, knee pain, not being healthy, being winded, not spending time with your kids. That's the hard part, right? But now if you flip that script and you made it hard up front, hard in eating less carbs, eating less ice cream, running more, all of those things. And then now the easy part becomes spending more time with the kids. Right. So it's all hard, right? It's one, knowing that somebody else has probably gone through what you've gone through. And I'm not saying that to minimize their thing, right? But somebody else has probably lost a loved one. Somebody else has probably been sexually abused. Somebody else has probably done, bad things. You're not in a place where you can not recover. Everything is always figure outable, right? That if it's too hard, there's always somebody to talk to. There's people like you and I all over the place that will create a safe space for you to talk to and help you. You've just got to be willing to ask for the help.
Yeah.
Because it's all hard. You just got to pick the hard.
That's what
And then it gets easier after that. But it's that first step that is the hardest part.
It's choosing your hard, right? That's what they say. Like, choose your hard and then go 100 miles per hour towards that hard, right? And hold yourself accountable, because the only way you can build trust within yourself, which I have grown to realize, is by holding yourself accountable and going towards what is important to you. And if it is health and wellness right now, then it's that. Or if it's about providing yourself an income, it's that. Or if it's being with the kids more, it's that. But like, find out what you want and then go for it.
The unfortunate thing is, I think a lot of people out there, they don't know what they want.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
And it makes me really, really sad because I get very emotional at the thoughts that somebody can't experience what I have with my wife, right? That makes me really sad that they can't find genuine love. And how lonely is the world for them if they can't find genuine love or feel that they can't find genuine love, right? So people have to figure out what their why is, right? And their why can change over time, as it probably should, right? My why probably when I was in my 20s, if I went to the exercise, is different than it is today. But there's a lot of people that are just floating on by, and they will say, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And unfortunately, they have not figured it out, and they pass away. And I look at what legacy stands for, right? And legacy, I think that the quote in Hamilton, which is extremely powerful, is it's planting a seed that you're never going to see grow. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, it does that. And it's about holding myself accountable, right? I can't have these genuine conversations, whether it be with you, an intern, an employee, and not hold up my end of the bargain. So it pushes me to be accountable to those actions too.
Yeah. So is that your why now? What is your why now?
My why is remaining the same, turn negative situations into opportunity.
Okay.
I don't think it will ever change. It gets more clear as the older I get, is what is the negative. My interpretation of the negative is what's changed. But I think that turning that into the opportunity, whether it's through business, whether it's personal, whatever it may need to be, is at the core of every decision that I make.
Wow. I've heard you say it multiple times today too. Your why.
Yeah.
Your why. And I think you brought up a good point, is that can change and develop and grow or get really clear and precise in its way. But it looks very different for each and every one of us, because my why, I call it my purpose. My purpose that I started out with is not my purpose that I have today, I believe.
Yeah.
But as you grow and you develop and your outlook on life and like changes, that should change and mold and grow with you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that's something unique in each and every one of us. And part of our goal in life is to figure that out.
Yep. And then once you figure it out, it's a game changer.
Yes.
It's a guiding light for you to make decisions, to act accordingly, all of those things. So I would highly recommend people take a day and like really kind of question how they come up with their why. And like for me, like I said earlier, it was coming up with those 5 moments that I remember that were the most negative, and 5 were the most, like the best days of my life. And questioning why they were that and finding the common threads to that. And if you do that vulnerable work, and trust me, it was really vulnerable. And then it was a series of talking to good friends of mine that was really close with and saying, hey, tell me what you think of me. I want you to be brutally honest. Brutally honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And hearing the things, good and bad, helped me frame into why I do the things that I do.
Wow.
But I think it's really hard for people, right? People are afraid to be vulnerable. It's crazy to me.
Terrified.
It's terrified. In the world we live in, they feel like they're going to be judged. They're going to be looked upon differently. And the truth is, it's not about the other person.
No, and that's why I try so hard, with my work to get people to just dip their toe in just a little, right? Because the feeling that comes with showing just a small part of yourself and having it be accepted by somebody else, having it be seen, is like the biggest drug ever. Like
sure.
And once you feel that, I feel like it gives you the courage to continue to do that. But yeah, vulnerability is terrifying for some.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's the world that we live in where there's so much confirmation bias out there in the world, or there's a level of jealousy, ego, whatever, that feels that they have to be better than somebody else, right? Which is crap. Nobody is better than anybody else. Right. You may have a better skill than me in this area, but I got a better skill than you in this area, right? Like we're all uniquely, individually celebrated, and we should be happy with that, right? But too many times people have taken that vulnerable thing and turned it into an opportunity for them.
Right.
Right. And the truth is, if they want to do that, let them, right? Literally tells you more about that individual than everything else. But I will say that even if you are vulnerable and even if other people take advantage of that vulnerability, there's enough people in this world that they won't take advantage of the vulnerability. And like you said, the peace that you get in sharing that a little bit, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And you realize very quickly who's in your circle and who is not.
Yeah.
And at that point, people show their true colors, and that's fine. I think we're all growing at different speeds. We're all in different places. But like you've said, you have collected this group of safe space, these people around you, right? For a reason, because they've proven that they can hold all the parts of Sean and in return give them parts of themselves. And it just creates this back and forth. And that's like the most powerful drug. I truly, I don't know. It just feeds that you don't need the other things that you thought you needed.
You build your people.
Yeah.
You build your people through that process. And like you said, if somebody takes advantage of you being vulnerable to them, they're not your people.
Right.
Right. So I would rather know that rather than go into army or go into war with something and have somebody that is going to use my vulnerability against me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm lucky enough where I've been able to be vulnerable, and I have an amazing brother-in-law, an amazing sister-in-law, amazing mother-in-law, amazing wife, amazing friends that will have my back no matter what. And I've been very vulnerable with them, and they haven't taken advantage of my vulnerability. Now there's some people that have. They're not in my life.
Right.
Right. And I'd rather not associate with those individuals. Right. And then spend the time with the people that I can have energetic conversations with, right? Because it's all about energy, right? I can have positive energy or I can have negative energy, right? Which one do you choose?
Yes. And once you feel the contrast of that, it's very clear when you're around somebody what bubble they fall into. Are you pulling me down or are you bringing me up?
Yep.
Very clear. And then it's a conscious decision. I don't want to play in this playground. I'm going back over here. Like it's very clear. Very clear.
It's very clear, but it's also very hard, right? When you don't know to know, because you can have conversations and you see it. Negativity breeds negativity.
Yeah.
Right? You see this world that we live in, whether it's the assassination of Kirk or politics and all of those things, you see it, right? And that confirmation bias of things, right? And you see all of the negative. And then next thing you know, you find yourself engaging in that negativity, right? And you're like, no. So that's the other thing, is being very aware of it, right? Because we're humans. We're not perfect. Right. So we are catching ourselves in those negative moments, and you have to pull yourself back. Right. Like my wife works at the VA, and when the new administration took over, she was very negative, very negative. And I said, my recommendation, because this individual is here for 4 more years, you learn more about this individual. Right. This individual likes chaos, supports around chaos. And if you are going to be in that chaos, that's not the place for you to be.
Yep.
Right. So you learn more and be okay being okay. Right. You don't have to love it. You don't have to, be here and be a supporter of that. But through hatred, dislike, all of that, it's going to create a negative side of you that you're not going to like. And then it's going to lead to guilt over your actions and your development, which are things that you can control.
100%. You can.
Yep.
And like you said, there's the humanness part of us, and it triggers different things within each and every one of us. The loss of control, the loss of power, like like so much of my abuse gets triggered through the current administration, right? And but I also know that's my work, right? And going on social media and like just ripping people apart or like is not helping anything. It's adding to that negative energy.
Yep.
So there are ways to protect yourself. There are ways to remove yourself. There are ways to still be in tune to what's going on. Like you can make those conscious decisions. We're in this right now. That's where we're at. We can't do much about it.
Nope.
And so I truly believe with you that agree with you that it's, our actions and our daily choices and that really impacts your own mental health.
For sure. And it's like, people have to be more forgiving of themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing, is because it's like they go down a path where maybe they're negative on social media or they're having a bad day at work and everything. Like, you're human.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is apologize, move on.
Yeah.
That's what I tell staff all the time when they make mistakes. You made a mistake. Apologize, move on. But we have to be more forgiving in the world that we live in. And in order to be forgiving, you have to feel trusted. In order to feel trust, you have to feel love, right? There's not enough love in the world. There's so much anger and hatred. I got to be right. When you stop trying to be right, that's when you can really be impactful on things, right? Because if we're having a conversation for growth, for learning, that's a much different conversation than saying, we're going to have a conversation to see who's right.
Well, there's being right creates a sense of safety for people.
Yep.
So there's fear, right? And then there's love and safety. And it's like when you are the need to be right, the need for control, the need to be heard, like that's all you trying to create a very false sense of safety around yourself. Very false.
Yep.
And so there is a whole other level of growth that happens when you realize we got no control over anything, right?
Yep.
And like we make conscious decisions, we make choices, we do our best, and that's about all we can do.
That's all we can do. I have an employee who has publicly said this, so I don't have a problem saying it. He struggled with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process of going through a divorce and custody and kids and recovery and all of those things, it created a space of not safe for him, right? And so he has shared some things with me where I was like, wow, that's pretty messed up. I could understand how that could create safety issues for you, right? Because I'm a type of person, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to be a better lawyer, a better human, a better parent. I'm going to keep, that's the way that I am. And that kind of pushes some people away sometimes, but I'm going to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I struggled with this individual for a good year until I figured out what the issue was. And I got this individual to open up. And it was because he was afraid of being vulnerable. He was afraid of not being safe because of his history. If he would do this, he'd be terminated. If he did this, he'd be looked at negatively. All of the things, right? And I said to him, listen, we're going to fight. We're going to disagree. And that's okay. Because through that, we're going to become stronger, because that's what will bring us together, realizing that we could have these moments and it brings us closer together, right? Because people like you, and that's the thing about my wife and I as well, is that very rarely will we argue about the same thing twice. If we're going to go, let's go. Let's go, and then let's get to a point where you understand my point, I understand your point, and we'll learn from it from there. Mm-hmm. And it's been very helpful. So I've had the same interaction with this employee, and it's now created a very safe space for us. And it's so funny because the things that came across as arrogance was insecurity.
Oh, God. You hit the nail on the head. And once you see it in one person, you see it in everybody.
Yep.
This ignorance, this ego,
Yep.
it's all a delusion. It's all this like way of covering up deep insecurities for individuals.
Yeah. It's covering up trauma.
It's covering up significant trauma.
You know, and we all mask our trauma somehow.
Yep.
Right? We just do. Whether we mask it with alcohol, whether we mask it with an eating disorder, whether we mask it with work, we're masking it in some way, right? What we're trying to say is everybody has trauma.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. And, you know, it's funny because I tell clients I talk to that have DWIs and say, hey, listen, now that you've hired us, I want you to let us take some of the burden off now. Because the last thing I want you to do is have this traumatic experience continuously affect your life. Have it affect your job, have it affect it to a point where now you're depressed. Now you're turning to alcohol more. Like, let's take some of that burden off of you, right? So that you can continue being a contributing member of society, so you could do those type of things. It's the same thing with trauma. Take that burden off of you. That doesn't need to be a burden. Right. And now once you do that, it opens up the doors, right? Like, I'm a big hugger. I love hugs. It shows my appreciation for the individual. It shows my love for the individual.
Yeah.
And when my father-in-law passed away, this individual gave me one of the sweetest gifts ever. He bought me movie passes to take the kids and my wife to the movies, which my wife loves the movie. So it was the best gift in the moment that there was. So I went up to give him a hug, and he's not a hugger, right? Probably because of this trauma and all the things he's been through. Gave the best hug. Gave the best hug. Squeezed to a point where I was like, is he going to let go? But it was fantastic. And the amount of respect that I've grown for this individual, that's probably also mutual, that now we can have these difficult conversations saying, no, you can't do it this way. You got to do it this way. Or, Sean, we can't do it this way. We got to do it this way. Those conversations just flow now because there's this mutual respect. And that's the difficult part about being a CEO of a law firm, not being a lawyer, right, is being able to have this space where I know a lot of things in how to run and operate a law firm that lawyers just don't know. Yeah. Right? And that's the benefit of having my mindset in there. And I think that our attorneys get that. And they understand that because when I'm talking to them, it's not about a space of the law. It's about the space of being open, being vulnerable, being more emotionally intelligent, and giving them the tools, right? So that they can be a good lawyer, focusing on clients rather than all the other nonsense that happens that they don't have to deal with.
Yeah. And that's clear, Sean. That is so clear. Anyone that sees you do what you do. So, what is one thing you would leave with the Central New York community today?
One thing I would leave with the Central New York community is find your person or persons that makes you feel safe. There's too many people out there floating by because they are afraid. They're afraid to be open. They're afraid to be vulnerable. They're afraid to figure out their why. And I want to see people engage into those activities, engage into finding accountability partners, finding people that they can connect with on a deeper level, right? Because when I say people are floating by, it's not intended to be negative. Mm-hmm. They are waking up, they're having their morning coffee, they're going to work, they're having dinner with their family, they're going to bed. That's the routine every single day, right? And I think that's a majority of people, right? Yeah. And they don't know any different. They don't know any different, right? Because I have a good life. I have a good job. I'm well respected at work. I have nice cars. I have a house. What more do I need? Right. Right? And I think that the more that you need is what are you leaving behind? Right? What's that seed that is going to grow after you die? That's the most important thing. And some people may not care about that, and that's okay. But I think that the more that we can think about what's the seed that I'm leaving behind, then I think the more that our community is going to benefit, right?
Great.
Because it's not about me, it's about my kids. I want to raise my kids to be great human beings, right? I want them to have kids that are going to be great human beings, right? So our impact of what we create goes well beyond the life that we live, well beyond, right? So if I can impact my staff and community people, that they then impact their kids, it just keeps the world pushing towards a better place.
It's beautiful. I'm so grateful for you.
Same.
Thank you for being here today, sharing your story and a little bit more of Sean Kelsey for this community to see and me to see today.
For sure.
So love you, friend.
I love you too.
All right. And we're out.